Close enough.
Yeah.
Close enough. We'll figure it out in post.
So what I brought up to Justin was, were you aware of what Michael Moore said about the Flint water crisis? About when it came to people donating water to Flint.
I don't make a habit of listening to what Michael Moore says. I'll just put it that way.
Well, that's
Go
good
ahead. Tell me what
because
he said.
all right, he said, and I paraphrase, and I paraphrase, but stop doing it. Don't donate water. It doesn't help anyone.
What?
He said that you should stop donating water to Flint because it's just a Band-Aid. It doesn't solve the problem.
Yes, but sometimes a Band-Aid is what you need until you actually can solve the problem.
See, if you're gushing blood...
Well, wait a minute,
See, there's a thing that you can buy at first aid stores. It's called a tourniquet.
It's called gauze.
It doesn't solve the problem.
Is Michael Moore trying to abandon his... is he trying to abandon the ideas of welfare, and he's just getting it horribly wrong, or...
It's not the right people giving the water is the problem. The government...
See, isn't that what I said?
Yep. Like all these different actual millionaires and ex-Michigan residents, like Kid Rock and Madonna, and even local businesses, they're all donating water to Flint. And Michael Moore said, "You guys stop it. That's not what we. That's not going to help us." And I think, the first thing I thought of when I heard that, as I told Justin, was people can't survive 24 hours without water, and Michael Moore is telling them to stop.
I don't think that there's a bone in my body that ever truly believed that Michael Moore would mind if people were dying around him.
Yeah, if there was a huge body count in Flint.
A buffet for him.
It's more food for him.
He's like Pac-Man with corpses.
What would his power pellet be?
The gun show loophole. I don't know.
The gun show.
Hello, I'd like to buy an AK-47. You're Michael Moore, aren't you? No. I can see the mustard stains. You're clearly Michael Moore.
I like that, though. That's the descriptor that identifies him.
It's what he's famous for.
Every tie, at least one.
Oh, man.
I don't suppose anyone read that Eric Peters article about Tesla recently, did they?
Well, I haven't been keeping up on him. What's he said?
So apparently, I did not know this. Tesla is a complete failure outside of its subsidies. And the only reason that and all of the subsidies basically come from people that don't own Teslas.
Yeah, I know. I know about that. I mean, there was a bunch of subsidies for electric cars in you could get a Leaf for 45% off or something like that in California just because it was an electric car. I mean, that kind of thing is really distorting to the market. But I mean, it's fucking California. What do you expect?
Well, apparently SpaceX is the same way.
I mean, so are most solar power companies. So are most alternative energy companies. Honestly, I mean, I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about how I think Iceland or Finland is trying to start up a universal minimum income, basically a negative income tax, and it's well, the one advantage of that is at least the government doesn't have the power to nudge you like a motherfucker all the time. Oh, you like that? Poke. No, you don't. Poke. No, you don't. Poke. No, you don't. I'm not touching you.
Yeah, I thought I should bring up that article. There were some funny points in it. So most people that own them, statistically, most people that own them have an income of about $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's but everyone's paying the taxes that are going to subsidize these. But there was one in particular. There was one thing about it in particular that I thought was.
The way that a person who is in favor of more taxes would put it is that the rich are using it as a tax write-off, so to speak.
Yeah, but there was something else. I got the article right here. I'm going to dig it up real quick.
Sure.
Let's see. It was something to do with the way that, that was it. It was so the car companies that build the cars that are efficient, that
Yep.
actually are worth building, so that people could, without any government subsidy whatsoever, they could buy those cars, and the money that those cars cost would pay for the people that are building those cars to build more cars. So apparently that's not the case with Tesla. Like every Tesla car coming off the line costs more than is reasonable to charge to produce it. So it's just not viable without the government subsidies. But apparently, because they're an electric car company, and because the government never looks at the production factors and how much carbon they emit because of running their factories to build the cars and everything, they never look at that. They just look at the car. So it's an electric car, so they get carbon tax credits. And one of the things that they do is that apparently in some weird way, every car company is forced to give Tesla money, which helps subsidize them. They buy the carbon credits from them because it's like the only place they can buy them, and they have to meet government standards.
Pretty much, yes.
I can't quite find that in the... I'll find it in a second. So,
I mean, Eric Peters puts out a lot of articles, so...
I found the article. I just got to find that part in the article.
Oh, I see.
Peters puts out. That's all I heard.
Well, you don't have to shut up for my sake.
If you're just joining us, a man is literally reading from his cell phone. Groundbreaking stuff.
The best part is that his computer's right in front of him and he's not using it.
And Ernie knows that because I'm sharing a screen with him.
That's correct. Oh, man.
Okay, so let's see. Laws in 9 states, including California. I'm assuming that's where Tesla comes from, otherwise they wouldn't have put that in parentheses. Require each automaker selling cars in the state to sell a certain number of zero-emissions vehicles or else be fined. Since only electric cars qualify under the law as zero emissions, the majority of cars made by the real car companies are not electric, and they end up having to purchase, and here he says, air quotes around purchase for the same reason that you are a quote-unquote customer of the IRS.
Yeah.
Purchase these carbon credits from Tesla, subsidizing Tesla's operations. Now, these credits, they actually, apparently they get a bunch of money. On the manufacturing end, Tesla got $1.3 billion in special crony capitalist incentives from the state of Nevada to build its battery factory there.
Wait, $1.3 billion from Nevada alone?
$1.3 billion, and it included an exemption from having to pay any property taxes, unlike us.
You mean like a church?
For the next 20 years.
Uh-huh. Like a church.
Like a church. They also got $195 million in transferable tax credits, which they could sell for cash.
Good for good for them.
I'm going to be honest. If I woke up tomorrow and I suddenly realized there was a way that I could get $195 million from someone for nothing, I would take it.
You should start a Justin credit market. Everybody needs Justin credits, and if they don't buy them, then bad things will happen. That small business you'd have, it'd be a shame if someone were to set fire to it.
All right. Is there anything else on your mind, Ramon, about Michael Moore? Or
oh no, that fat slob long left my mind.
I don't know. He's got to really wriggle his way out of just about any situation.
He's like an octopus now. I don't think he has any bones left. He can pour himself into any container.
It's amazing that he has so much so much gall and no spine.
Well, the gallbladder is not a bone. I mean, he must produce. I suspect that he produces plenty of bile. Is what I'm saying.
All right, so we're not going to spend the next half hour talking Ramon back into voting and doing his civic duty.
Civic duty.
Like, I'm sure I'll show up. Like, there'll probably be something on the ballot. There'll probably be local government stuff. But it's like, for the presidency, it's someone I can't stand and someone that can't stand me. That's my choice.
Yeah, I don't begrudge people for wanting to. I mean, I don't begrudge anyone for if they really want to vote. It's just I'm not going to vote, and I don't see a point in it. But like, oh, if I was going to, it would be at the local level and nothing else.
Yeah,
because
I mean, Ramon has the right of it.
Yeah.
I mean, going in and voting for local stuff is the stuff that's most likely to actually affect your life.
Yeah.
Whereas the presidency is a choice between two people who are probably going to have basically the same results, regardless of what they do. Because, I mean, the president doesn't do legislation, and yet that's what they keep talking about doing. So, I don't know. They're just going to have to hope that Congress does what they want.
Well, judging from all the talk radio I heard when I was working for a delivery company, apparently Barack Obama's job is collecting names, rounding people up, and shooting them. that apparently happens all the time. Have you been
listening to Glenn Beck?
No, I've been listening to a fool named Mike Savage.
Oh God!
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, Mike Savage.
Like every time I would like finish up my delivery route, my driver would have Mike Savage on like towards the end of the day, and he would start every program, like just like real quiet, like, oh my God, I can't believe that my transmission got through. and he would
AM radio.
Yeah, and he would talk about.
Yeah, I mean, AM radio is a pretty shitty way to get your message out. I'll just say that.
And
I mean, come on, it's blocked by most physical objects. So
like interest.
No, that's entirely different.
See, the thing about Mike Savage is like he'll get some libertarians listening to him and supporting him, but the way he does it, it's like it's really weird. Like it's always so he'll say something that from a perspective of freedom makes a lot of sense and is probably a good message. But then, like 10 minutes later in the same show, he'll be banging the table, going, "We need tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. We need to get rid of the Mexicans."
He's a warmongering piece of shit. That's what I'll say. You can post that. Michael Savage is a warmongering piece of shit. I mean, you can get someone somewhere to at least give lip service to libertarian concepts at some place or another. I mean, everybody does it. Bernie Sanders does it in his own twisted way, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, if you take away the
principles and follow them through is a completely different concept.
Yeah, if you like block out the socialist mumbo jumbo, most of what he starts his sentences with is something that a libertarian would agree with.
Well, yeah, but it's all lip service.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the same problem that there is with the Republican Party, right? They all, at least they used to be, we're pro small government, we're pro free markets, and they never actually deliver on that shit. It's just lip service.
What, the Republicans have a poor track record delivering on promises?
I mean, it's a question of it's I don't know. Is it better to give lip service to things that sound good and then not deliver, or to say things that are against the things that are worth saying?
Well, considering that most people in my church congregation vote Republican based solely on the abortion issue, and I often bring up the fact that Bush had 8 years control of both the House and the Senate and didn't touch abortion.
Well, he can't. There's not really anything he can do. First, again, this is another problem, right? Like, the only way in the existence of the current system that we could have the current system that handles how abortion is legally enshrined is two things. One, Congress could amend the Constitution. Two, the Supreme Court could get another case and then rule the other way. That's the only two things that could happen. Now, the only way that the first one would happen is it requires a much larger supermajority than either party has had in Congress for a very long time. And then the other one is entirely dependent upon picking Supreme Court justices, and even then it's a very long-term strategy, I guess you would call it. But even then, the Republicans have had a pretty bad track record of picking justices who quote-unquote serve their interests in any case. So
wait. First off, let's be fair here. We had to pass the Affordable Care Act. It had to get through the Supreme Court because we had to make Barack Obama wear that around his neck. That was the quote, right?
I think so. I remember that. Like, when the Republicans, like when they managed to whittle it down from everybody gets free health care, no questions asked, to the system we have now where by government protection, like after they finally whittled that down, people were still mad at the Republicans for evidently caving, even though really Obama caved.
Well, I'm specifically referring to the Supreme Court thing, where the one justice who who jumped ship at the last minute and was
Roberts?
yeah where
He didn't jump ship. I mean, he didn't. Jumping ship is the.
It's the wrong word for it.
It's the wrong word for it because he was never explicitly on any given ship at any given time.
Yeah.
Right? People expected him to be on one ship and he wasn't. That's that. And so
what he did was
weird sour grapes.
Yeah, he had that weird. There was that weird moment where he was like, judging by the way he was acting, it was like, I'm against this, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it so that we can go it's all Barack Obama's fault. Well, wait a minute.
Is that what Roberts said, or is that what someone said about what Roberts was doing?
Well, no, it was when it happened. What was the exact? They were arguing in the Supreme Court whether it was a tax or whether it could be taxed. Do you remember that?
Whether it was a tax or a penalty.
Yeah, a tax or a penalty, and they went ahead and.
You're speaking too collectively here, right? Like I don't even know. I forget who wrote the opinion for that case. But the one point that was in that case was that it was a tax, and the IRS can tax whatever the fuck it wants, and so it stands. And there wasn't. I mean, there were dissents, but I don't think Roberts wrote a dissent. He was part of the affirmation.
He was talking about his vote. He wasn't writing a dissent. He was talking about his.
Talking to someone else. Okay, fine.
As far as I know, it might have been. It might have been.
That's no.
Well, because I guess a lot of people. I don't know anything about the Supreme Court members, so a lot of people, I guess, were surprised that he said, yeah, it's fine. It can be we'll call it a tax, but then you can go ahead and do it anyway, or was it the opposite? They call it a penalty, and
no, it's that they called it a tax, and they're like, well, the IRS can tax whatever the fuck it wants, so therefore it stands.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
In the actual law, it's described as a penalty, and the people who were writing the law at the time said, oh, it's a penalty, and then he said, well, the penalty would be unconstitutional, but we can change the word penalty to tax effectively and say, oh, that's fine.
This might be a good conversation for another time after I actually read where that came from.
I suppose.
Yeah, the Supreme Court justices in and of themselves, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, where everyone has a rich tapestry of history you could talk about, and it's all awful.
Pretty much.
Well, I mean, just imagine what you have to do to become a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're Clarence Thomas, you sexually harass a woman, pay her off, and then you become a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's easy street.
Easy street.
All right, so comic books?
Yeah, Justin.
Go ahead.
Justin said, one of the things that since I'm here, we could talk about comics, and there is a subject that I have been thinking about for a long time.
Okay.
All right, so before I came over here and signed on, I saw something on Facebook that...
How good is this going to be? Because...
It's going to be pretty great.
Okay. Talk about something else for about 4 minutes.
Okay, something else. Yeah,
how about now?
Yeah.
Okay, got your back.
Yeah, Justin killed the microphone. He didn't like we were talking bad about PewDiePie.
Yeah, no,
Justin's PewDiePie's number one subscriber.
I just realized that that my setup here is recording you crystal clear. So what I'm going to do is get this microphone to where it's just getting all three of us, and I'll, at the very least for the comic discussion, we'll have I won't have to have your side of the recording. Recorded anyway, though?
Yeah, I'm recording. I mean, it's not like it hurts me to record it. I just have Audacity sitting here.
I just want to...
Is it really picking me? I guess it is. There I am, right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm getting you clear enough here.
You should take video of this, and it could be you two and a pair of speakers pointed at the microphone.
All right, so I'll turn up the volume here a bit, and
You could like hang an old pair of glasses on the speakers or something like that.
because we had this problem with the video games that we were trying to do, but we're not. Your voice is exactly what we want on this now, so this isn't a problem now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Lay it on me.
before I came over, on Facebook I saw this picture. My one buddy, lady friend, she subscribes to like a lot of like liberal like women's rights groups, and usually she posts some things that are pretty funny. Mostly nowadays it's like anti-Trump stuff, so instantly funny. Like even if it's stupid, it's like no anti-Trump, so whatever. I got a chuckle out of it.
Wait, is this someone I'm going to be able to see if I look at your Facebook page?
Maybe, but the picture she posted this before I came over was a picture of Wonder Woman, and she was yelling at all her fellow like male Justice League friends, and said, "If I can't wear pants, you can't either." And they were all dressed in her old costumes.
I've seen that picture before. That was.
And I thought to myself, okay, I've been thinking about this exact topic now for about 2 weeks. And I think this is it. This is the straw that broke my back. What gives people that have no fashion sense, that have no design skill, what gives them the right to say what works and what doesn't?
Well, I mean, it's not even... Okay, you can attack it from that perspective, but let me ask you a question. Canonically, who designed Wonder Woman's outfit?
Canonically, it came from Hephaestus or Vulcan. He made it so it would be like armor. Like there's different like reasons behind the symbolism, but the general idea is
literal god produced it.
Yes, a literal god produced it, and it's like magic armor. It's like the golden girdle, basically.
If the god thought it would be important for her to have pants, wouldn't he have put pants on it?
Precisely. In that canonically, in that universe, it's perfectly reasonable for a woman to wear that and be untouchable. Also, this is Wonder Woman. She literally could walk around naked, and who the hell is going to question her? And how is that going to affect what she does?
Superman, maybe?
Superman, probably, but he probably, like...
He's a bit of a sissy boy.
Yeah. So he doesn't know.
Yeah, he's never looking at anyone's clothes. So he's just on automatic when it comes to clothes. He's just like, yep, everybody's naked.
Can you imagine the first time Clark Kent wore glasses? He's like, holy shit, people other than me wear clothes?
He's like the reverse emperor.
Yeah, basically.
But still an idiot.
Yeah, well, yeah, he can't avoid kryptonite to save his life.
We're never going to let that one go, are we?
Well, you can't, because DC can't, because, my God, kryptonite really is everywhere. It's like, no matter, you could go like 2 years, a dry spell without kryptonite, and then some writer shows up and says, hey, remember kryptonite? Let's have it everywhere. It's like, it's this MacGuffin that keeps showing up, disappearing, and showing up again.
Well, it's because they made an invincible man their comic book hero. They need to make him not invincible sometimes.
But the
to
weird,
make the story better.
But the weird thing is that so many writers have found a way to beat Superman without kryptonite that you'd think even a hack that's copying someone's story would figure out, wait, I can beat Superman without kryptonite. What the hell?
That may be.
But, okay, back to...
Somebody's always going to say, like, oh, I could do something novel with kryptonite, and then they're going to bring it back. And they're going to do the one novel thing, and it's not going to really be that novel. It'll be a little bit novel. And then they'll be like, okay, there's kryptonite again. Shit. Shit.
Right, well, back to my original point. Like,
Sure.
I've been thinking about this for a few weeks, and one of the things is, you always get... Well, like, some people we know... and some people we don't know and don't ever want to know, they've always bring out like, oh, look at how ridiculous the women have to dress. Look at how ridiculous they're designed. And the first thing I think of is, you know who really likes this costume? Women that read comics. Women that dress like these characters, that go to conventions and don't feel ashamed. Women that, like, love these characters and love the way they're designed. Like, when Wonder Woman got a redesign... by Jim Lee, and she looked really, really boring. And that's another thing. When these costumes get redesigned, they tend to be boring, like visually unappealing.
That's everything that they try is like, well, we'll make it interesting by doing this, and they're like, oh, you can't do that. That's objectifying or something. Even though Superman wears tights, right, which accentuate his musculature and so on. And so forth.
Actually, we'll get to that in a second. That actually is another point I want to bring up.
Do we have to get to that?
we need to talk about Superman's physique in gross detail. Let's get Kristen on this.
But yeah, one of the things is, like the most famous one that always gets picked on is Power Girl. Now, Power Girl is, not to go too deep into her origin, because, my God, her origin's a mess. But she's basically Supergirl all grown up. She's an adult. Okay. And she wears an outfit that people just poke fun at all the time. And it has the infamous, like, boob window. It has, like, it's a one-piece leotard that has her top chest just exposed.
A cleavage cutout.
Yeah, a cleavage cutout. And people always point to it and how stupid it is and how nonsense it is. And I think this costume has existed for almost 40, 50 years, and it's only been like in the last 5 that I've seen a problem. What happened?
The accentuation of cleavage as a fashion statement has existed for thousands.
Exactly.
Of years.
Yeah, but it's like they only point to like Power Girl, like, oh, how ridiculous. Why does it need to be there? And I think, you know what? One of these days, if I ever get famous for writing comics, I am going to write a Power Girl story where she says, you know what? You know why I have it? Because I goddamn like it. Because I look good with it. And that's all the reason I need. And then she'll look to the camera and she'll tell the feminists, that's right, it's my body, you don't get to choose what I wear.
Well, you did just say that it was Supergirl all grown up. I would assume that an adult could make her own decisions.
Well, she is related to Superman.
Oh, okay, well...
Well, then, as long as there's no kryptonite, she can make her own decisions.
So what you're saying is she's related to the most uptight, moral person on the face of the planet, and people are surprised that she's wearing an outfit that shows a bit of cleavage?
And the thing is, Superman doesn't care either. He's
of course
perfectly
not.
all right about it.
He's like, thank God, another Kryptonian, but hey. Aren't you two related? Shut up.
Shut up.
She's the only other Kryptonian this week.
I'm
a different species.
But what I can't stand is when people... there was this one cartoon where a female comic artist, wanted to point out the logical flaws in Power Girl's design. Like how when she's flying, since there's a boob window, the wind shear would make it really hard for her to fly.
Oh yeah, because that's what's important here.
That we already know from Superman lore that he has a little bit of a protective aura around him that protects him from strong physical vibrations and stuff at a distance of a couple of centimeters.
I didn't know that, and I feel dumber for knowing that. Like, that seems so...
That's how he protects Lois Lane, by grabbing her, is the way I've seen it explained before.
That actually fits in with the next thing I was going to talk about, but... but it's like, the second I read that, like, this was one of, like, the big things, like, the way she opened it, and I thought, you know what else is impossible? A woman that can fly. It's like, my God.
Well, no. If they're gonna use that argument, then what they are essentially, if they're going to use the realism argument in this scenario, then what's to stop us from applying it to other scenarios? So how many fights do you think Power Girl would be in, where because of the level of strength and energy being put into the fight, all of her clothes wouldn't be vaporized in the first place? So, by that logic, we should basically just be having comics with Power Girl and Superman running around naked all the time.
I'd be cool with that.
Like Greek wrestling, Lex Luthor?
Yeah. It would have to be Greek wrestling. It's like, why do we always fight like this?
Better than Turkish wrestling.
It's a legit sport. No, come on, guys.
No, it's an Olympic sport.
Well, I don't think Lex gets a say in it. I think he's just like, Superman, you can just pick me up and arrest me. No, Lex, I have to wrestle you to the ground. I'm sorry.
But what's most insulting about this is that the actual writers that spend time, like the actual writers and comic artists that spend time, by now have spent their whole lives idolizing these characters and studying them. they actually fall into this stupid trap. Like maybe the editors, who sometimes they aren't comic fans. They're just lit majors that got a job editing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's them like pushing their buttons, telling them they have to do this, but they actually feel the dumb need to explain these things. And when they explain it, they just end up becoming stupider. Because like the explanation for Power Girl's like missing section of her leotard isn't fashion. It isn't because she thinks like, hey, I look good like this. No, it's I have crippling self-esteem issues.
What?
You see, Superman wears an emblem on his chest, and I've always looked up to my older cousin. So until I can live up to him, I'm not going to wear anything on my chest. And I immediately, when I read that, I thought, boy, what a great female figure. She can lift a building, but man, she just doesn't feel secure about herself.
She feels secure about herself to show off an insane level of cleavage. I am the most insecure exhibitionist ever.
If I ever only felt inferior to an invincible man who can fly around the world so fast that it makes time go backwards, that's pretty good about myself. I think I'd have pretty high self-esteem at that point.
I don't know, because I've always felt superior to Superman, so...
Well, I mean, as a character, certainly, but, I can't... As much as I'd like to, I can't fly around.
I feel superior.
Gorilla Grodd's attacking the city. I'm just not... No. Not today.
Not feeling it today.
Who's reading comics to get an absolute sense of realism? Like you.
Well, of course not. That's the whole. I mean,
I'm sorry. I'm just not understanding the draw that anyone would have to like Wonder Woman carrying out her Wonder Woman duties. In a pair of slacks and a cardigan.
in a pantsuit.
Yeah. Corduroys. Like if you maybe if the outfit is part of the gimmick, like if corduroys are part of her superpowers, I could see it. But it's like nobody's reading these comics for I want to show me the everyday man.
It's Gatsby, the comic.
And when these costumes get redesigned, it's all done so slapdash that it's insulting to the artist that does the work. Because Jim Lee has never been good at design. He's a decent artist, but when it comes to actual design, like, you can point to Gambit and say that's the most creative he's ever going to get, and people laugh at it. Because he's done redesigns before, and they've all been boring or just sort of meh. But he is a great drawer. I'll put it that way, because artist, no. Drawer is fine. But
it takes a lot of skill to do what he does, even if he's not as particularly creative as you'd like him to be.
But when they do these redesigns and they're done slapdash, what would you go? It ignores the fact that Spider-Man, Spider-Man and especially Batman, there are pages and pages and pages of artist notes of Bill Finger and, in Spider-Man's case, Steve Ditko, meticulously going over what does this character look like. Like weeks and weeks of work. Like in Batman's case, months of work to figure out what is the perfect way to show this character off. And in Batman's case, the process never ended. It's still going now because people even now have the big debate, well, for Batman, do we have that little bit of yellow in his emblem, or is it just a big black bat? And then people talk about ear size, what's too ridiculous, what's too short. It's a big process, and then there's a lot of work that goes into it. And then people, they look at classic costumes like Wonder Woman's or Power Girls, and they instantly say, no, this is stupid. Okay, why? Well, it's impractical. What?
They're superheroes.
Yeah, they're superheroes. There's nothing practical about them. I don't read about Wonder Woman fighting Apollo for the throne of Zeus to hear about practicality.
It's like, well, she doesn't have a pocket protector. I mean, how is she going to take notes on things?
What is she going to have for dinner? I mean, McDonald's is kind of crappy, but you could go to one of the higher quality substitutes and
oh my god,
burger.
Okay.
No, you don't want to go there, Rudy. You don't even know what can of worms you just opened up. She worked fast food.
Oh my, yeah, she did. In the early 2000s, Wonder Woman, when she came back to life, she wanted to try living like a normal person, just as her human alter ego, Diana Prince. She got a job at Taco Bell.
Oh.
It was hilarious.
It might have been the best Wonder Woman run ever. It was the issue where they said, "Hey, Wonder Woman, get in the kitchen."
But okay, the last point I wanted to bring up, and this is the point that really, like for the designer in me, the person that actually goes out of his way to understand why does this costume work and why doesn't it. This is the part that gets me. I saw another meme where it was two like silk sleeves, or no, two like latex sleeves, two latex leggings, and a sock over the penis. And it said, this is what male superheroes would wear if they were forced to dress like women. And I thought, oh my God, this doesn't understand anything about design or even comedy.
Do these people not read comics? Oh, okay. So in mine and Rudy's experience, I'm usually the people that are complaining most vocally about this don't even have any skin in the game.
Yeah,
which is probably the best choice of words for this.
They're people that prefer to call comic books graphic novels, and I want to drown them.
Well, not only that, but they're people that
a lot of them are people who don't even read comics.
Yeah, they don't even read comics. They just
online and they retweet some fucking meme.
Yeah,
because it's like, who's looking at comics and saying, "Oh, if the male superheroes had to dress like," because they do dress like that. What are the women's costumes doing? They're accentuating the breasts and the hips, and they've got tight clothes on, revealing parts of their body. Well, what are the male costumes doing? They're accentuating the muscles and the chests and the abs and the calves and the thighs. They're doing the same thing already.
Yeah, and one of the things that ticks me off is, from a design point of view, and this is insane that I have to say it because they don't realize it, men and women are, now wait for it, physically different.
Gasp and shock.
You can't say that. Justin, you have to bleep this part out. Holy shit,
I will mute the whole thing.
Like men have angles, men are muscular. Like a traditional masculine man or a traditional masculine hero has a lot of angles. He's lumpy. He's
square jawed.
He's square. He's lantern jawed. Even Spider-Man has angles. Even when he's flipping through the air in a curvy kind of fashion, he's still very defined and has angles.
Right.
There's a reason why he wears angular clothing. And women have curves. Even a muscular woman like Wonder Woman still is naturally curvy. Hence the woman in her name. And when you have a character like I say, a good example is Namor the Submariner from Marvel. For the longest time, since the 60s, he wore trunks, and they always looked stupid. Like, nobody liked them. Like, this was a classic costume, and everyone always pointed out and made fun of that costume because it looked stupid. This was supposed to be the king of Atlantis in the Marvel universe, and it just was a grown man walking around in green underwear. They changed his costume in the early 2000s to like a tight pants and like a V kind of like chest shirt. And the way it was cut was a deep V down the front and a big collar. And it worked because now he looked regal. Now he had something that fit his body structure. He was a king, so he had a literal arrow that pointed down toward his crotch and said, "I am the king, and you will suck me off." And it worked, and it made him look cool. Like, when he walked into the room, now you didn't want to laugh. Now you were like, "Oh man, shit's going down," because he looked serious.
And even with those words tattooed on his back.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, let's look at that in the reverse, though. It's like, okay, so these horrible oppressed female superheroes are forced to endure these sexist costumes. Fine, let's put them in some of the men's costumes. Let's put Wonder Woman in Superman's costume, and she'd just be dragging around this like baggy, sagging arm, getting caught in everything she brushes by, giant costume with a cape flying everywhere.
Well, no, but even if you made it, I mean, it's still. I mean, even if you made her the Superman uniform fit her, it still wouldn't satisfy these people because they wouldn't want her to be wearing something skin tight either. They'd be like, oh well, that makes her look. I mean, what they're really opposed to is Wonder Woman looking like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
because you wouldn't win that either way, because it would either be a case of, well, this costume doesn't fit her, so it would be silly for her to wear this, or you make it fit her, and then all of a sudden it's the same problem.
Yeah.
And one of the things, like when the New 52 showed up, and this was one of DC's many reboots. When the New 52
Are we finally in a universe where DC Comics is good? Not yet.
No. Oh my god. I love DC Comics, man. New 52 New 52 flat out said, you know what, Ramon, we're gonna go our separate ways.
I got to ask you, since it came up in our Batman and Superman discussion, what is your thought on which characters are more iconic, the Marvel or the DC? Because I was of the opinion that more people would be familiar with DC, and Rudy brought up a good point, though. He says, everyone knows the X-Men and everything, but
at least a decent number of the X-Men, not all of them.
But when I thought about it, it's like, you know a lot more, it seems, about DC characters. Like, when you run across comic people, they always seem to... A lot more people can give you the history of Batman and Superman than they can of Wolverine.
That's only two characters,
well,
right?
yeah, but it's like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman... The entire Justice League is pretty popular.
Well, the thing is, it used to be that DC was more iconic. Like, by, I want to say the early 90s, it was unquestioned. Like, DC had the icons. Marvel had the best kept secrets. Like, they had things that, as is apparent now, they had things that could make them billions of dollars. But nobody knew about them.
So to mix metaphors, they were the dark horse.
That was good, but no, like as you said, more people are familiar about the X-Men. In the early '90s, before the X-Men cartoon came on, Fox didn't want it. Like, Marvel had a hell of a time selling it because Fox flat out said, "Who the hell knows what X-Men is?" X-Men, yeah, like comic book fans knew what X-Men was, but the general public didn't have a clue. They didn't know who Wolverine was. Like, they were familiar with Firestar and Iceman, because they were on the Spider-Man and Friends show. But even then, it was like, well, that show hasn't been on in like 15 years. Who remembers them? So nowadays, Marvel, I would say, is more iconic because people have heard the Spider-Man origin story a billion times. People know who the X-Men are. People are now familiar with Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Like, my God, try selling Thor in the 90s, and you can't do it at all. But it's like they had to move mountains to change that status quo.
So you're saying it was like a sustained media campaign, really, that kind of turned the tables.
Yeah,
because now we've got the Avengers movies, and it just seems like just now DC is starting to step up their game, sort of. And
DC,
try to produce
well, they were, and then they made that Superman Batman movie.
Right. Well, that's the joke I was making.
Yeah, they got laughed at. Okay, the only thing the Superman Batman movie did that anyone could really agree with is now they're excited for Wonder Woman, and Aquaman finally doesn't look so stupid. Like
that's a big improvement.
That is a big improvement, but the Ben Affleck Batman project I don't have faith in because Zack Snyder has openly said, I am going to interfere. The Aquaman project was on shaky ground until the director said, no, I'm not leaving. No, it's okay. Just because Zack Snyder is executive producing, it doesn't mean he's going to take everything away from you. It's all right. Please see my movie.
It's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be all right.
It's like some horrible Stockholm syndrome.
I don't know anything about Zack Snyder. Has he done any good movies?
Yes. He did 300, and 300 is what launched his career.
Oh.
He did 300, and he did such a good adaptation of it that people kept giving him comic book adaptations, and it never occurred to him, wait, comic books are a different medium than movies. Maybe I can change some things around. Maybe I could get the artist's permission, the publisher's permission. Maybe I can reimagine these scenes in different ways that fit the medium of movies better. And we don't get that.
I see. So is the Superman-Batman movie an adaptation of something?
It's an adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns. And I say that in the loosest sense possible.
And with a heavy heart.
But
I thought, okay, so then if Zack Snyder was doing a really good job of very directly translating comics over to movies, what's different about the Batman Superman movie?
Okay, The Dark Knight Returns. Okay, just to flat out say, we're done talking about costume design and superheroes, right? We've put the lid on it. No one will ever be happy, right?
Oh no, no one will ever be happy.
Okay.
No one will ever be happy. But if something comes up, we can certainly come back to it.
Okay, all right. The Dark Knight Returns is a lot of people think it's Frank Miller's like bookend. Like this is how Frank Miller sees the Batman story ending. It's not.
Okay.
It's true story. Frank Miller turned 35 on a plane. Like it was his birthday when he was on a plane, and he realized in that moment, oh my God, I'm technically older than Batman. I'm older than my hero. That can't stand. So on the plane ride, he wrote in his head The Dark Knight Returns, about a retired Batman. We don't know the full reason why Batman retired, but a lot of people suspect it was the death of Jason Todd. That whatever he was trying to prove, his big crusade, his war on crime, whatever he was trying to prove, when Jason Todd, the second Robin, died, it failed. Like it blew up horribly in his face, and he said, I can't do this anymore, and he quit.
Like he felt like it was his fault.
Yeah, he felt like it was his fault and that his whole mindset was a failure.
Okay.
And he retired, and it's about him, basically, from page 1, it's him saying, how am I going to die? How am I going to go out? Because right now, I'm just a millionaire drunk. Is this how I go out? Do I just die of a heart attack in a chair? How do I leave the world? What is my legacy? It's him going back to fighting crime and taking back a world that not only forgot about him, but as you look at all the kids, like all the crime is committed, most of the crime is committed by youth that aren't completely misguided. They've lost faith in the things that are supposed to be inspiring to them. They can't look up to the government. They can't look up to their civic leaders. They don't go to school anymore.
The devil, you say.
The devil, yeah.
They don't go to school anymore.
They really don't go to school anymore.
Sounds like a pretty good place.
You mean like government school, right?
Yeah.
They don't still go to government schools. They're government schools.
Well, it's a dystopia because if you're not going to government school, then clearly you're just sitting around smoking all day.
That's right. But yeah, even like the gang leaders that manipulate them, are the only people they can look up to because they're the ones that say, they had a page where there was a new gang in town called the Mutants, where the mutant leader flat out said, they call you a gang of kids. They call you nothing but children. Well, we're going to show them. We're going to take them on. And Batman stands up and he puts the mutant leader in his place. He lets the kids know, no, this guy is just using you. He's not as strong as he would like you to he would like you to believe.
Sure.
And then as the story progresses, it's him basically closing cases. He finally, he handles his business with the Joker, basically. And he handles his business with Harvey Dent. And the story ends with, Ronald Reagan enlisting Superman to say, Batman is out of control. You're a good, literally saying, you're a good boy. Can you handle it? And Superman flies in and just lets Batman know, I don't want to hurt you. We used to be friends. Could you please just step down? And Batman, wearing powered armor, and he hires the Green Arrow to shoot a kryptonite arrow into Superman. Batman flat out says, you're not going to stop me. No one's going to stop me. This is how it ends for me. And it has this big, incredible fight between Batman versus Superman that comic book nerds, since it was published, have quoted forever. And it ends with Batman with his hand around Superman's neck, pretty much saying, I want you to remember this. Remember with my hand on your throat. And Batman dies of a heart attack. He dies in that moment. Superman, is still very much alive. He goes and he gets Batman help, but it doesn't work. Batman dies, he's buried, but as Superman walks away, he can hear with his super hearing a heartbeat. Batman didn't die, he just had an aneurysm or something. He passed out or had a stroke or whatever. And the story ends with Batman in the Batcave with all the former gang members. They've all decided to follow Batman, and Batman decides, this isn't how I die just yet. I have to make sure the world can live without me. And he has become the inspiration for all these kids to change themselves, to fight for what's right, and to follow a set of codes that he will teach them.
Uh-huh.
Zack Snyder decided to cherry pick a lot of these ideas and just stuck with, hey, Batman and Superman fight, and it's really cool.
Uh-huh. And he didn't make it really cool.
No, he didn't. He cherry picked a bunch of scenes, got the message completely wrong. Like, one scene that I just sort of thought to myself, oh my god, you could not have gotten this more wrong, was when Alfred is bringing Ben Affleck, or Bat Affleck, some wine. Batfleck. He's bringing him some wine, and he says, I can't quite remember it, but he says, like, he says something about emptying out the Wayne wine storehouses. You know, and he says, like, pretty much, I guess, a fully stocked wine house is something the next generation of Waynes won't have to worry about, if there ever will be a next generation of Waynes. Uh-huh. And the thing is, it worked in Dark Knight Returns because at this point, Bruce Wayne literally was a drunk that didn't leave the house.
Yeah, they didn't really portray him as a drunk in that movie.
Yeah, but Ben Affleck is an active man. He's an active man that goes out on the town, that still keeps up the playboy persona, that has a social life. It doesn't make sense for Alfred to make that kind of remark.
Yeah, it's like they picked the scene out without realizing the context of it.
Exactly.
And so, okay, so what you're saying about Zack Snyder is that he's really good if he sticks to the material?
Yes.
But he's no good if he tries to adapt it.
If he sticks to the material, and look, when he did an adaptation of Watchmen, a lot of people said, like, the best Zack Snyder could do, aside from the Rorschach scenes, because you could be you could be Uwe Boll and not screw up Rorschach. It's really hard to screw up someone that cool. But a lot of people saw the movie and said, the most creative part of it was the opening scene where instead of the way Alan Moore told the story in narration and little snippets of story in between the comics that explained a lot of things, Zack Snyder told it in a real quick vignette, across a sad song that explained to the audience, this is how the heroes started, this is what happened to them, this is where we are now. Uh-huh. And he did it all in a few minutes. Sure. He managed to tell all that story in visual cues in a few minutes, and it was really clever. Uh-huh. He didn't keep with this track record of cleverness. He didn't, he ran out of steam real quick.
In that movie, or in his...
in Watchmen and in a lot of his projects, he runs out of steam.
Interesting. Because I saw The Watchmen. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I haven't read it yet.
I told myself, this is the best I'm ever going to get. Like, I love the Watchmen book. I've read it multiple times, and I just said to myself, this is as good as it's going to get. Like, it's not awful, but there are some times where I thought, like, you really could have done this differently. You could have explained things visually without having to have the characters go into long monologues, just like they do in the book. Because, the book is a comic book, and it's made for,
reading a paragraph is a lot faster than saying a paragraph.
Yeah.
I like the comic. I mean, I borrowed it from you one time.
Yeah, okay. First off, you're a liar. You did not like the comic because you didn't finish the comic. You gave it back to me and said this book sucks.
No.
Yeah, I'm calling you out.
No, it was...
This podcast is over.
Hang on. No, it was... maybe it was the reverse. I know it wasn't the movie, because the movie, I left the theater and I was like, it was a good movie, but I didn't like it because it's not my style. Yeah. So, what am I thinking of that I liked? I did read the comic. I had to have, because I knew about the different ending, the different ending that they used.
Yeah, because I told you the ending, but you asked me what the ending was.
Okay, that must have been it.
You asked me what the ending was.
How long ago was it that I borrowed it? I don't usually forget things like this.
Years. It was like, you heard the Watchmen movie was coming out, So you always wanted to read it, and I gave
No,
you
no,
my
no, no, no,
copy.
no. I read it way before the movie was coming out.
Okay.
You were the one, before there was ever even talk of a movie, you came to me with that and said I
All
should
right.
read it. So, what was it that I liked?
You liked Rorschach?
No, it was,
and-
you let me, years ago, before I knew who Deadpool was, you let me borrow Deadpool, and
No.
I liked it. Yeah, you gave me like 3 Deadpool comics, and it was...
Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah.
It was, because that was the only one where I ever saw him with his mask off, and so it was like when they came out with that X-Men movie with Wade Wilson running around without his mask on, I was like, isn't his face supposed to be all messed up?
Yeah, I remember that now.
No, I remember. You know what I might have done? I might not have read the whole book. I might have read half of Watchmen and then just flipped through and looked at the pictures.
Yeah,
because I remember very vivid images from that. Like, I remember at the end of the comic where there was... wasn't there like a notebook that Rorschach had...
Rorschach's notebook that the publisher told his like lackey assistant, look, I'm heading out, I'm going on vacation, just publish whatever the hell you want, just don't burn the place down. And he got Rorschach's book and decided, this looks pretty interesting, I guess I'll publish this. And Rorschach's book was all the evidence you needed that the world peace people are believing in was a complete lie.
And there was an image of like an alien invasion at the end of...
That wasn't an alien invasion. The idea was that...
Well, no, but there was a picture of
like
something that was like an alien invasion at the end of that book.
Yeah.
'Cause there was like that big pink and purple like...
The flower monster.
Yeah.
Ozymandias had figured out teleportation, but the problem was everything he teleported exploded because you could not get the molecular structure to stick together. It came together and then just blew apart. He couldn't figure it out. And then you started seeing scenes of him hiring all these different artists and geneticists, and you figured, well, Ozymandias is a businessman. His works are literally all over the world, like free energy and all these different like vitamin supplements that give you the perfect body. His work is touched everywhere. So you figure, okay, this isn't really a big deal. What it was, though, Ozymandias was creating a monster. He was creating a giant monster and filling that monster with ideas. He created a monster with a giant brain that was mildly psychic. Like it had all these different like horrible images in its head. And once he teleported that monster into New York, it exploded. It blew up the city. And that's why you see piles of bodies everywhere, people stuck in buildings with blood draining down the sides. And the idea was, once the monster died, all those psychic images flew into everyone's heads, and everyone, without thinking, was like, oh my god, an alien invasion is here. We need help. We need to band together. We need to, fuck the Cold War. We need to stop the aliens.
And we can thank Paul Krugman for this.
Yes. And yeah, that was Ozymandias' plan in the book. In the movie, he just framed Dr. Manhattan.
Did we lose Rudy? Are you still there?
I'm right here. I'm still here. I'm just listening to Ramon.
Oh. I thought I'd at least get a chuckle out of that Paul Krugman comment. Oh yeah, I liked that comic. You said it sucked. No, I remember handing you the book back, and I swear I must have read through the whole thing, but at the very least I did look at the entire book because there's just too much opportunity to. I'm not the kind of person that like doesn't give things a chance,
Well, you couldn't have read the whole book because I remember telling you about the ending and telling you that Dr. Manhattan kills Rorschach because Rorschach, his beliefs cannot be shaken. He is going to expose the truth one way or another.
I thought that was something that was different in the comics. I thought he lives at the end of it.
No.
And,
no, it was... The ending was... The cause and effect of blackmailing the world into world peace, that was different. But Rorschach dying... Rorschach's beliefs were just... what he said to the owl at the end was... what was it? No compromise. That was always the difference between you and me. And that's when he walked out into Antarctica and he said, pretty much, I don't care. You killed millions of people. No compromise. I'm going to expose you. And Dr. Manhattan said, I can't let you leave. I can't let you expose the truth. Millions of people died for peace. And Rorschach just said, if you're going to do it, just fucking do it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, there's No, I remember there were significant portions. I must have told you that I didn't like it because that was the point I was going to make with the movie was I didn't think it was a bad movie. I thought it was a movie I didn't like. I didn't like the music. I didn't like a lot of the cinematography. I didn't care for most of the characters. I mean, it's almost impossible to hate Rorschach, but
Yeah.
but like I didn't care about anyone else in that movie. But the book there was always something about the atmosphere of both the movie and the book that I just kind of bored me. I guess.
It's definitely a slow go. That's true. I mean, it was a really long movie too, wasn't it?
It was about 2.5 hours, which honestly now with superhero movies, that's the standard. But I guess it was kind of jarring.
I know, but
it was jarring at the time.
Yeah,
There was a lot of exposition in the comic that I thought took away from it too.
Well, there was a lot of exposition in the comic that really it got you in the mindset that Alan Moore is not a man of brevity.
Who was it that did was it Transmetropolitan?
That was Warren Ellis.
Oh, okay. Warren Ellis is the man.
Yes, he is. Whatchamacallit? One of the things that ticks me off about Zack Snyder is he calls himself a deconstructionist. He says he...
Well, he did destroy Superman and Batman.
That is true. But
that's not what deconstructionism means.
It is one meaning of deconstruction.
But no,
to take apart.
But no, he likes to consider...
He vivisected those stories.
He likes to consider himself a deconstructionist because he likes to think, well, I'm looking at superheroes in a realistic light. And what he doesn't realize is that's not what deconstructionism means. And the people that he is inspired by and the books that he likes, the people that started the deconstructionist movement of superheroes in the 80s, had a great deal of respect for comic books and superheroes.
He wasn't looking at it in any realistic light.
Exactly.
There was no light in that in which he was looking at... Oh, no. The last 3 Batman movies were way better at looking at it in a realistic light.
The movies where he didn't murder people?
Yeah. You remember the movies where Batman was Batman? It was like the first one was a bit ridiculous. Batman Begins. That kind of bridged the gap between the corny ones from the 80s and 90s and the new one.
Yeah.
But then the second one was just... I mean, the villain was not a super villain per se, even though he was supposed to be a super villain.
He was a super villain in the sense that in the real world, someone like this wouldn't make it past Scheme 1, but he is able to pull these things off in a movie or fantasy type setting.
Yeah, and they took a character like the Joker that is ridiculous. It's like nobody's running around and wearing a bunch of makeup and doing all these super crimes that the Joker's doing in like the cartoons and everything. But in this movie, they took that character, they gave him a real serious psychological problem beyond what the cartoons and comics had, and he had an element of realism to him. It wasn't a real person. It wasn't something that you would see in reality, but the elements of how he acted and what he thought of the world were very real.
Yeah.
And those movies played to the characters very well. Like Batman had real issues that he dealt with outside of just being Batman. And
The Dark Knight, that is an effective way to cherry pick ideas, because they cherry picked ideas from Batman the Killing Joke, from Dark Knight Returns, from a lot of classic Joker stories and a lot of classic Two-Face stories, and put them in and shined a light on them that fit the series, that was a new way to look at things and really worked. They took their time. This was not let's build a giant franchise because Marvel's kicking our ass.
Yeah, it was a really good job. If you wanted to say something that was appealing to realism, it was... See, because those movies you could have taken Bruce Wayne and made him a crime fighter without him being Batman, and you could have taken the Joker without it being the Joker, and you still would have had the same hero and villain in that story. And I think that held true for most of Dark Knight Rises too. Obviously Bane wasn't the same as the comic book Bane. He was a much more like he didn't have drugs pumping into his system to make him stronger. They implied that he did with his mask, that it was help, but it was for health reasons.
Yeah.
And they did little touches like that to make it more realistic without actually making it realistic. So it was still a comic book movie, but it wasn't so over the top that, after you left that movie, you weren't pointing at it and saying, "Oh man, what they had Bane doing there was stupid. That was it's real corny." Like there wasn't a lot that was corny that they were doing. They might have been things that were unreasonable and couldn't happen, but they weren't corny.
No, those movies were definitely not corny.
Well, thank you, Rudy.
That's my contribution.